Hi everyone. My name is Carol. I love God. I love Christ. And so yeah, I'm in this space. I just wanted to share my thoughts on a book I actually read about, and the book is called A Tale of Three Kings. Well, I had heard about it, but I never taken my time to read or to those books that it doesn't spark any interest. So but recently, actually this month, I was reading the book. It's a very short book. I think it only has like 89 pages. And um and so so I get it's about three kings, King Saul, King David, and Absalom. Absalom was King David's son. And so actually King David first son, who was meant to succeed him when King David dies. And so yeah, so very recently I was speaking to a friend of mine, and we were just discussing about life. You know how friends who haven't spoken for a bit, so and then you can go on and on and on about life and where you are and things you're learning, and such. And so we were just talking about where we are, and I happened to mention about my newly found admiration for King David. And so my friend went on and on, saying how King David was his favorite biblical persona. And yeah, that was exciting. I mean, yeah, King David was someone. But then in the midst of our conversation, the guy says, at the, I don't know what we were discussing about, but then he said he didn't want to be a fanatic. And we were just discussing something in the lines of being grounded. And so he was very confused, or I don't want to say confused, but he didn't know how. He was in a space where he didn't know how to balance, going in 100%. And so I mentioned to this guy, like, King David was actually a fanatic. If you think about it, the enduring, the pain, the suffering that this guy endured in the name of God is absolutely ridiculous. Even in the hands of his own son Absalom, who was plotting to steal the kingdom from him, and he was going to rebel against him, and he was going to divide the kingdom and all that. But it's how this guy submitted himself, and he said, if it's God's will, it's not my kingdom to keep, it's not my kingdom, I didn't earn it, it's not my kingdom, it's God's kingdom. And I was just thinking about it. If today, imagine a random president who fears God, say our current president, he loves God and he fears God, and then there's a threat on his administration, and instead of fighting back, he says, if it's God's will, I will not fight for it. It wasn't mine. It's not mine to keep. It's God who gave it to me, and it is his kingdom. If he wants to take it, he can take it. Or it is administration. If he wants to take it, he can take it. And so, wow, I was like, you dude, you know what? Actually, King David was the real fanatic of God. Like, this man led a very unusual life, like unconventional. Like, those lives you're like, what? If it wasn't the Bible, you wouldn't believe it. And so, yeah, so this book helped me understand how to live a life of submission and and submission to God. It's not the easiest of things to do, I can say that. But King David, and that book captures it very well, how this man surrendered his life. Like, he knew it was not his life, he knew who true God was, and he knew how to appease to this God. Of course, he wasn't perfect. He's a man, he's a human being, he's gonna make mistakes, but that man, he endured a lot of suffering in the hands of King Saul, but he will not do anything. In as much as he could have done so many things, he didn't do a thing. He didn't do jack, because he knew he loved God, and he submitted himself. And so, yeah, I was in that space of just, wow, introspectively looking at yourself, and asking yourself, wow, and asking myself, wow, like, wow, what will I do in similar circumstances as David? Because you see, David wasn't entirely helpless, especially when he was waiting for the succession. He was waiting for his turn to come after King Saul's death. He had the clout. People loved him, and then he had God's anointing. He could, there's decisions he would have made. He'll have retaliated against Saul. There's so many things he would have done, but he did not. He chose not to revenge. He chose to look up, yeah, and show compassion over this man. He knew what it means not to touch the God anointed. And so yeah, so I have written a blog about it. I hope you guys can get to read it. I'm gonna link it somewhere in my bio, or I don't know, in the comments or somewhere. So I hope you guys can read and just get the whole essence of this book and what I learned about David, and even what I learned about myself. So thank you for listening in. Bye.